From early learners to lifelong students, SDPB inspires curiosity through trusted educational programs and resources for every stage of life. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. When South Dakotans need reliable information, SDPB is there providing updates and coverage that keep our communities safe and connected. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB.
Good morning and welcome to Senate Education. Ask everyone to turn their cell phones to vibrate or silent. If you plan on testifying today, please sign on at the back of the room on that new system. If you are testifying and have handouts, please have the pages, distribute the handouts. Any lobbyists testifying on behalf of someone, please make sure you are appropriately badged. I'd like to welcome everyone listening to us online. The committee can be contacted at the website senateeducation@sdlegislature.gov. Lastly, a reminder to address all questions and testimony through the chair. At this time, I would have the secretary call the roll.
Senators Marty.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
Peterson excused. Sauter.
Here.
Smith excused. Voigt.
Here.
Shanefish.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Senator Voigt, second by Senator Nelson. Comments on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Looks like the pages are out of the room at the moment. We'll have them introduce themselves later. There she is, back ready. All right. Please tell us your future plans, any interesting facts about you. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Quinn Nielsen. I go to Sioux Valley High School, and I plan to attend SDSU to double major in vocal performance and political science and then go to law school. Sorry, I'm a little winded from the stairs. And one fun fact about me is I'm currently in our school's production of Mamma Mia.
Wow, very good. Thank you. We won't make you sing for us or anything, so don't worry. With that, we will move into our calendar for the day. The first bill up is Senate Bill 213. An act to create the Building Opportunity Through Out-of-School Time Program and the Building Opportunity Through Out-of-School Time Program Fund. Authorize a new fee. Make an appropriation, therefore, and transfer monies to the Building Opportunity Through Out-of-School Time Program Fund. Don't worry, we will not count reading that title of the bill against your time limit. So, welcome, Senator. Proponent testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate it. Liz Larson, District 10 Senator. And I'm asking today for your favorable support on Senate Bill 213. Senate Bill 213 makes a one-time $2.5 million appropriation to the Department of Education to establish an out-of-school care grant program, which would be focused on expanding access to out-of-school time programming across South Dakota. The bill also contains an ongoing funding mechanism, which we will get into as well. It's about meeting a very practical need for working families, supporting healthy youth development, and strengthening our long-term workforce pipeline. I've got a lineup of individuals ready to talk about this in more detail, and then the impact that it can have on kids as individuals and on our community as a whole. So I'll go through the high-level components of the bill and then discuss why this matters, and then hand it over to a couple of friends for some details. So out-of-school programs offer structured, supervised environments for children during hours when parents are at work, including after-school and summer programming. As such, they're both a workforce and an education issue. More importantly, they represent a long-term investment in our communities, providing immediate support to working families and children while strengthening the broader economy and overall vitality of our communities over time. We need these programs among students and their parents, and there's a significant need for these programs that's currently being unmet. Our constituents who are parents have been consistently saying that this is a critical need, as have the businesses that they work for. We've still not been able to adequately provide a set of solutions for either parents or businesses that have this need. So this bill is a way to address that. Programs like this have evidence-based agendas on them that help young people increase academic performance, explore new interests and opportunities, build social skills through collaboration with peers and mentors, develop healthy habits, confidence, life skills, and also, maybe most importantly, keeping kids out of trouble. These programs are the most effective tools that we have for reducing risky behavior during after-school hours, which is consistently shown to be the highest time of day risk for youth. And parents, of course, overwhelmingly value and rely on these programs in South Dakota. In South Dakota, we have several successful organizations engaged in out-of-school care. And the Out-of-School Alliance, or After-School Alliance reports that in these programs, 99% of parents are satisfied with their child's after-school care program. 87% of parents report peace of mind, knowing that their children are safe and supervised. And this is in South Dakota. 83 say that after-school programs help them keep their jobs. For many families, after-school care is not optional. It's a prerequisite for employment. Despite strong demand and proven outcomes, access remains deeply insufficient. For every child enrolled in an after-school program in South Dakota, 2 more are waiting, and that demand has been increasing over the past couple of years. Almost 23,000 children are currently alone and unsupervised after school in our state. And over the past decade, the number of children without access has grown by more than 5,000. So it's not a lack of interest from families. It's not a lack of interest from businesses. It's a capacity and an affordability problem. So the bill isn't just about kids. It's about that workforce participation and economic stability. We know that these out-of-school programs allow parents to work those full-time jobs and have those consistent schedules. We know that they reduce absenteeism and job instability for the parent, and we know that they support upward mobility by helping families stay connected to the labor force. At the same time, these programs help the young people build hands-on skills like early career awareness, positive relationships, and long-term workforce readiness. So this particular program is a targeted, scalable investment that leverages existing providers and their infrastructure while allowing Department of Education to distribute funds based on demonstrated need in the community. With that broad brushstroke, I will hand it over to my colleagues here for a bit more of a detailed deep dive.
All right, thank you, Senator. And I don't think I said before the bills, we'll allow 20 minutes on each side for the bills today. So, go ahead. Thank you.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Mike Bockerny. I'm here wearing many hats this morning, so I'll explain those briefly. I'm here as the registered lobbyist for the South Dakota Association for the Education of Young Children, which is a lot of words, better known as SEDACE. They're registered lobbyist. I'm also representing the Aberdeen Chamber of Commerce, the Aberdeen Development Corporation, as their registered lobbyist, and then I also have the pleasure of serving as the CEO of the Economic Developer Professionals Association of South Dakota. We rise in support of this legislation. For the past 3 years, I've had the privilege of serving on the statewide child care task force. This task force has worked on all things in child care, which includes out-of-school time. My time working with this group has been eye-opening, to say the least. Today we have a chance to make a difference, and I hope that we do so. As Senator Larson mentioned, we'll leave the details of the inner workings of the bill for those to follow me. What I really want to talk about this morning is focus on the why. Why are we here? Why do we need this? And how do we know we need this? Just yesterday, late yesterday afternoon, I actually received an updated South Dakota out-of-school time task force report, which is something that task force that I mentioned earlier that I serve on has been working on for the past year. It shows a lot of updated statistics, and I know Senator Larson just mentioned some, but unfortunately, the updated statistics are even show a larger picture of why we need this than what the good senator just mentioned. It shows that there are 42,000 school-age children in our state who would participate in an after-school program if one were available. But where they live, it's not. It's not available, it's not accessible, or it's not affordable, or some combination of all three. At the same time, approximately 81% of children live in households where all available parents are working. When school lets out at about 3 p.m., parents are still at work, most anyway. That gap must be filled by something. If it's not filled by structured, high-quality programming, it gets filled by unsupervised time. And we all know what happens in unsupervised time, or can happen. More than 32,000 South Dakota children are alone and unsupervised between 3 and 6 p.m. That's what our data that I just received last night shows. Those are the peak hours for juvenile crime, risky behavior nationally. High-quality nonprofit out-of-school time providers like our Boys and Girls Clubs, YMCAs, and school-based community learning centers, tribal programs, faith-based nonprofits are not simply child care. Rather, they are structured environments with trained staff, mentoring adults, academic support, enrichment, and positive peer engagement. I want to just pause here for a second and just mention that when we talk about child care and out-of-school time, what doesn't count as quality, we really look at quality, it's not putting a bunch of kids in a gym and calling it child care or calling it out-of-school time. It has to come along with those enrichment activities. All of our research shows that youth placed in community-based support experience better outcomes than those entering detention and incarceration costs. I'm sorry, let me back up for a second. Shows that the outcomes that those entering detention and incarceration costs average over $88,000 per youth annually. By comparison, after-school programming costs just $3,306 a year. So making an investment now is not just a moral argument or moral judgment, it's fiscal prudence. Quality matters. I talked about that a little bit earlier. When programs are aligned with school day learning and staffed by trained professionals, students improve academically and behaviorally. Here's some quick statistics. 53% of students with low GPAs improve with good quality out-of-school time care. 48% improve in reading, 44% improvement in math, 40% of chronically absent students improve their attendance. Those are all very positive. Nonprofit providers also cultivate developmental relationships with caring adults, a proven factor against avoiding risky behavior. Youth engaged in structured extracurricular programming are less likely to use substances, less likely to have unexcused absences, and much more likely to graduate. For parents and for the business community, this is about confidence and peace of mind. South Dakota parents report that after-school programs, if their child is in a good quality after-school program, they are 78% more productive at their place of work. 78% more productive because they're not worried about what their child is doing, because they know they're in a good quality, safe, structured, and supervised environment. They're not home alone, they're not roaming the neighborhood, they're not exposed to negative influences, and again, they are more productive at work. They are less stressed, they stay in the labor force, employers benefit, and ultimately communities benefit. Right now, we currently rely heavily on federal funding streams and have no consistent state-level funding commitment. That creates instability for these providers who are on the front lines of keeping our kids safe and productive. Investing in high-quality, nonprofit-led out-of-school time programming is workforce policy, it's public safety policy, it's economic development policy, it's education policy. This bill strengthens safe environments for our children, supports working families, increases business output, reduces long-term correctional costs, and reinforces nonprofit community partners already doing their work. I would also like to comment a little bit personally here that, one of the funding mechanisms, ongoing funding, is to increase a fee on LLCs. I personally own 7 LLCs myself, and I can tell you I'd be more than happy to pay that increased fee on an annual basis, knowing that my employees would have access to the most high-quality out-of-school time care possible. Because I can tell you the number one cause of absenteeism in our staff is because some challenge related to their child and being able to be cared for. So I think this is a good investment. The business community would support it. We've been talking about this for a number of years now. We got to do something, and this is a good path forward. So with that, we'll stand by for questions. Thank you for your time and consideration this morning.
All right, thank you. We're running about 11 minutes now.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Jennifer Stalley, and I'm here on behalf of the 53 Boys and Girls Club locations across the state. And we serve approximately 18,000 youth annually in our state right now. There's a couple of CEOs from the clubs that are online, and I'll let them get into the details of their day-to-day work, but I would just echo the comments that Mr. Bachany made about the effectiveness of out-of-school time, structured out-of-school time, as far as making sure that our kids are making good choices, that they're keeping up with their education, and that they are progressing in the way we would want them to forward. What we know is that 96% of the kids that we serve at our clubs are on track to graduate. We know that 54% are volunteering at least some of their time weekly on a regular basis, and that 74% have already indicated a plan for their future, whether that's college, vocational school, or the career that they're choosing. And so I lead with that to make you understand that I think that the clubs and YMCAs and other groups that are eligible for the funding that's proposed by Senator Larson's bill, I think that we're good partners for you as you look at how to handle the overall education of the students in the state. So I've been tapped with the task of kind of the mechanics of the bill, as was alluded to by the Prime and Mr. Bachany, and just wanted to let you know that this is a very narrowly tailored partnership. So what the bill would do is it would allow the Department of Education to have $2.5 million in one-time funding, and then be able to secure ongoing funding of approximately $2.5 million by increasing the filing fee on all of the corporations in South Dakota, so the LLCs that Mr. Bockerny just referred to. We know that businesses support this, that businesses want to have structured places for their employees' children to go, and that seemed like the most logical place to have business contribute to our effort to fund on an ongoing basis some of this programming. The grants would be limited to nonprofit providers or programs that are attached to a school system now. So we're looking to partner with proven partners, if you will. I think we'd be looking at like the Club for Boys in Rapid City, Boys and Girls Clubs, probably MB, YMCAs. As you think about the nonprofits that might be in your community, they'd all be eligible for this. But most importantly, you'd be partnering with proven partners who are then going to focus on specific out-of-school time activities with that money. And that would be activities that improve academic or career readiness, reduce negative behaviors, provide a safe out-of-school time environment, and engage in career exploration. There's certainly a bigger role that all of these providers play in the community to make sure that children of all ages have a safe place to go, but this money in particular would be directed towards those areas so that we're helping every child keep up with their educational readiness and also with their career exploration. I thank the senator for this creative funding solution. You know, we've been talking about how do we address childcare and out-of-school time for some time, and how do we do that on an ongoing basis. I think looking to the business community, which is supportive of this effort, to be the funding source in an ongoing basis is important. The 2.5 in one-time money lets us start on July 1st, and after that, there would be a sustainable funding source for this moving forward. So with that, we would ask for your support. I think there might be one more person in the room, Mr. Chairman, and then there's a couple of CEOs online.
Okay, so one more opponent in the room.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Deb Mortensen representing the YMCA Alliance of South Dakota. So we have Ys in 7 communities. We serve thousands of children in our out-of-school time programs year-round. I know we have some CEOs from the Boys and Girls Club online who are going to talk specifically about their programs, and I am going to yield my time so that you can hear straight from them. So we would appreciate your support of the bill. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll go to our online testifiers. We'll allow each of you 3 minutes, up to 3 minutes each if you choose to use it. So go ahead. We'll start with Laura Zwart. Or wait, no, sorry. We'll go to Liz Bronwell, Go ahead, start.
Okay, good morning, Chair Stonefish and members of the committee. I'm Liz Brownell, the CEO at the Boys and Girls Club of Watertown and a member of the South Dakota Alliance of Boys and Girls Clubs. Every child deserves a great future. Out of school time is the most critical and overlooked opportunity to transform a child's life. The way a child spends this time can significantly impact the path he or she takes. Youth cannot be effective learners if they are hungry or lack the proper support. Out-of-school time programs such as Boys and Girls Clubs are specifically designed to support student achievement, character and leadership development, and workforce readiness, while also addressing issues around juvenile delinquency. SB 213 would create new opportunities to serve more youth and support working parents. The funds would support staff mentoring costs, supplies and program materials, and assist with transportation expenses. So a story here in Watertown, last year we served over 1,000 club members with academic enrichment programs, including hands-on STEM experiments, Lego leagues, and the use of virtual reality headsets to explore careers such as being a welder and an automotive technician. Youth have enjoyed field trips and job shadow tours to a physical therapy clinic and assisted living center. College visits and programs to assist with resume building and job applications have helped kids take the next steps they need to be successful, productive adults in a challenging workforce. We've also introduced youth to some life and skill building activities, including gardening, yoga sessions, cooking classes, and jewelry making. All of the programs I just mentioned keep kids on track to graduate, helps with summer learning loss, and fosters kids to be independent learners. This bill will continue to provide a safe environment for our young people and will enhance educational outcomes, their personal wellness, and enrichment opportunities. Parents and voters support this, and it is vital to continuing our strong South Dakota economy. We have the proven ROI to support this investment, so please pass SB 213 so these critical out-of-school time solutions can be included in this discussion today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We will move to Stacy Jones online. Please go ahead.
I think Stacy
Okay.
might be still muted.
Stacy, are you? We can't hear you yet. Nope, still can't hear you.
Perfect. Thank you. I
I
needed
can
to
hear
be
you. Thank you.
unmuted on there. Awesome. Wonderful. Well, good morning, Chair Shane Fish and members of the committee. I'm Stacy Jones. I'm the CEO of the Boys and Girls Clubs of the Sioux Empire, and we serve 21 club sites and more than 2,500 youth in the Sioux Falls, Brandon, and Harrisburg communities. And let me talk about one of our clubs and one monumental example we've had for our club in Sioux Falls. This past August, we opened the first Boys and Girls Club in Sioux Falls attached directly to a middle school. That's the club at George McGovern Middle School. And it currently has about half of that school enrolled, about 400 youth. Now, if you're not familiar with that school has an incredibly high rate of poverty with over 70% of students qualifying for free or reduced lunch. Now, we also lead youth diversion support efforts and are inclusive of all students who benefit from supervision, structure, and access to quality programs and opportunities. Also, with McGovern having 99% of students bused, the transportation home is critical. We give around 100 students rides home at the end of every evening. Now, this club, for one example, is truly changing lives with daily mentorship, tutoring, and career exploration during critical out-of-school time. So, for example, we've already had, since opening in August, 324 completed career modules through virtual reality career exploration, which is absolutely awesome when we think of the workforce development needs in South Dakota. Also, since opening, we've served 4,200 snacks and about 6,500 dinners, and all of this is at no charge to these youth. Now, the Boys and Girls Clubs is not just about housing kids in safe places. We're about impact and results. This funding will do just that. It'll improve academic success, reduce and prevent negative behaviors, and engage in that career exploration or work-based learning, all while providing a safe out-of-school time environment where youth and teens will thrive. So I do ask you to please pass SB 213 so these critical solutions can still be continued in some of the discussion. And I thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Seeing no farther proponent testimony, we will move into opponent testimony.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Tom Diedrich. I'm the Deputy Secretary of State, and since this bill touches the Secretary of State's office, I thought maybe you should know something about how it will affect us. But before we do that, how many of you are familiar with JAG, Jobs for American Graduates? I think that's a great program. In fact, it's such a good program that the Founders Award is in my house, given to me. So I'm not saying what I'm going to say as anything against children and education, but you need to know all the story with it. So far, what we've been hearing is why this is good for the state, and we're not arguing that. We've also heard it'll make for productive citizens at work and better children not having the problems that many of them have today of juvenile crime, etc. We're all for all of that, but we're kind of wondering why the fees have to be targeted at our office, essentially, with the annual reports on there. I can tell you that annual report fees are one of the ways that we fund the office, the operation of the office, or new programs for the office. If you take $30, $35, $40 off the top of that right now, If we need it sometime in the future, like 8 or 10 years from now, it's going to be much more difficult to get to it than it would be if that fee is not there. And I see there's puzzlement on that. You can only raise fees so high. You can only get them so high. This raises them approximately $35 for every annual report being filed. It brings it from $55 up to $90. We're getting to the place where it gets difficult to make it work. We raised them $5 last year, I think, and we have about like 3 to 4 people that handle the phones. And they told me that the volume of traffic coming in complaining about the $5 fee increase was quite high. That was a $5 fee. I don't know how we're supposed to explain to everybody that this $35 fee was a legislative fee for education and we had nothing to do with it. That's going to make life a little difficult. Now, making life difficult for 3 or 4 people and helping thousands of people, I understand the cost-benefit ratio, but you need to be aware of all the facts with it. So we would hope that the fees could be spread across the state. If this is good for the citizens of the state of South Dakota, then why not all the fees that are being paid be looked at and raised all the way across? And so everybody pays a little bit of it instead of it all being concentrated to one area. That's the end of my testimony. I'll stand by for questions.
Okay, thank you. Further opponent testimony. Is there any more opponent testimony? All right, seeing none, we'll offer the prime sponsor a brief rebuttal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Liz Larson, District 10, Senator. Well, this is a practical investment. It's expanding on the good work of a lot of the nonprofit organizations in our state that are already doing this, but it's addressing the also very real unmet need that is being expressed to us by families and by workplaces. And this is a workable solution and a practical investment for that. It supports families, it keeps kids safe and engaged, it strengthens our future workforce as the need increases. And we'd, of course, be happy to work with Deputy Secretary on the fee structure if there's something that we could change. We're asking for this conversation to be continued, and that's why we're asking you to pass this. We continue to have growing waiting lists and unmet needs. We need more of these structured opportunities for kids whose parents are out building our economy. If you're a young kid, you go home and you have idle time, you have your parents working, this gets you on a positive foot. So I respectfully ask that you support Senate Bill 213. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Senator. We'll next move into committee questions. Questions from the committee. Senator Voigt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Liz. We had some conversation or engage in conversation regarding cost by the department. Can you elaborate on cost in terms of staffing, education materials, specialized equipment, facilities? Does this funding take in consideration those costs?
Yes, and can I phone a friend for further details?
Certainly.
Mr. Chairman, Jennifer Stalley for the Boys and Girls Club. Senator Voigt, if I understand your question correctly, I don't think there's any additional cost to the Secretary of State's office for implementing the fee. I appreciate that Mr. Dietrich is indicating that that fee would go up and may not be available to their office in the future if they wanted to add an additional fee onto the filings. But there wouldn't be any additional cost because that fee is already being collected on an annual basis by the Secretary of State's office. If you're asking about the programming itself, so what the bill is doing is setting up a grant structure where the Department of Education could, for example, give a grant to the Watertown Boys and Girls Club so that they could expand their programming to do those specific things. And part of those grant funds would be used for the costs of the programming that they're expanding. So that's the purpose of the grant, is to cover the costs that are incurred by allowing these services to be provided to more students or more children after school. Does that help?
It helps. Follow up. Is there in the grant process an indication in terms of what's our allowances for specific parts of that cost? How much is for staffing? How much is for transportation? How much is for equipment? How much is for programming? Has there been a definitive program listing in terms of what that looks like for $2.5 million or $5 million?
Mr. Chairman, so Senator Voigt, I believe that we're confining to what it can be used for. So the career readiness, the education enhancement, and then I'm looking, the department would set the criteria of how the money is allocated. So the Department of Education is going to set up the grant program, and they would be able to say how you could allocate it. There is somewhere in here a specific cap on any administrative costs that a grantee can cover. No more than 10% of the grant could be used by a grantee for administrative costs. So there's limited things that the money can be used for. But in full disclosure, I think a lot of the grant funds would be used for staffing, because these are staff-intensive services. If you're going to help someone with their school, if you're going to make sure that they have an opportunity to be mentored, and so it does allow for staffing. And I'll use the club again as an example. The grant could be used to pay for the staffing that is providing that programming, but only 10% could be used for administration of the grant. Does that help?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Further questions from the committee? More questions from the committee? Seeing none, we will move into committee discussion and/or action. Senator Smith.
I guess I'd make a motion to move this to Joint Committee on Appropriations to further discussion when it comes to funding.
Okay, with a
do pass recommendation. Yep.
Okay, motion by Senator Smith, seconded by Senator Sauter. Comments on the motion?
I think it's the need for this is great. I think it's a good solution to that problem, and I think it needs to continue, and I think we need to make sure that this ends up in Joint Committee on Appropriations, because that's where they're figuring out what we can do to move things forward.
Okay, thank you. Further comments from the committee? Senator Voigt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would say this from a historical perspective. In another lifetime, I was a middle school principal. We had the traditional after-school activities. They were called athletics. That did not cover 80% of that student population. It was great for those kids, but what about the other kids? So we took it upon ourselves as a staff. We started a before-school program. We started an after-school program where the staff basically in the community got together and designed activities to keep those kids engaged until those parents would get home from work or left early and left those kids hanging out there. It was not good for them. My question is, what's the student population here that we're going to address? Are we looking at from 4th graders to 9th graders, from 7th graders to 12th graders? What's the population? Because there's a lot of conversation about vocational, entry-level vocational activities for the kids. What's appropriate for a 4th grader is certainly not going to be engaging for an 8th or 9th grader. And you're talking about facilities, equipment, large considerations. So what's the perspective in terms of what student population are we actually targeting? My other thought is, what about outside the traditional school year, i.e. summer? Is this program going to keep those kids engaged? My experience with that was at the federal level called the YCCs. Anybody recall what the YCCs were? Probably not. I'm really aged. Youth Conservation Corps. Ronald Reagan ran those kids in the summertime. I ran that program, and it was a great program. But it training of staff, equipment, it was a very, very worthwhile program for the community in terms of demonstrating what youth were capable in terms of giving to the community instead of taking all the time. And I know this is not that, but it can be very effective if you've got staff that are committed and you've got the resources.
Okay, thank you. Further comments from the committee? All right, seeing none. Oh, okay, Senator Nelson.
Yeah, two of my fun visits that I had this summer or fall or whenever it was, who knows when, was to my local Boys and Girls Club in Yankton and also to the one in Sioux Falls that just opened up. And the work that they are doing is remarkable, and I applaud them for corralling all those kids after school and keeping them entertained. I mean, and not just entertained, but keeping them active and stuff. The thing that does concern me about this is the $90 and the fact that, yes, when the Secretary of State wants to increase the fees for their purposes, it starts pushing it up there. And the other thing, too, that concerns me is the fact that we're collecting money throughout the state. I'm just thinking of my family. Our family farm is an LLC, and you're collecting money, from me and from others in other parts of the state where maybe there are not these programs. Obviously these programs are situated in very, high populated areas, and you're charging people money, and that money is then going to these areas. And so that kind of gives me a little bit of heartburn for that, to raise those fees on there. And I understand why you do LLCs, because one of the things that I talked about with the director at Yankton is the fact that your Boys and Girls Club benefits our local businesses. It allows parents to stay working until 5. It gives them a place for their kids to go. And I met with our representative, met with them, and we encourage them, to reach out to the businesses in your community and say, hey, this is important. This allows your workers to be here, not have to worry about their kids and everything. Problem is, a lot of our businesses are not locally owned anymore. They're owned by out of state, out of nation, and they don't have really an interest in donating to your local Boys and Girls Club. So I'm going to, with that, I'm going to resist this recommendation, and that's all I got.
Thank you. Any further comments? Senator Sauter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to note that while I understand where the good senator is coming from, as far as money going out of my pocket across the state, there's a lot of situations in our state that happens. But there are 53 Boys and Girls Clubs across the state, and we don't have 53 huge cities in our state. So it is spread across the state quite well.
Eye contact. Just kidding. With that, I'll just throw in, I do commend the proponents of working on a way to get some support here, and I'm good with at least continuing the discussion, so I'll be supporting the motion. So the Secretary will call the roll.
Senators Marty?
No.
Nelson?
No.
Peterson excused. Sauter?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Shanefish?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, we have 4 yea, 2 nay, 1 excused.
Motion carries.
That was the fiscal notes, correct? It's going to JCA.
It's going to appropriations. So. All right, next on our agenda, we have Senate Bill 229, an act to require an election to approve the issuance of capital outlay certificates. Much shorter title than the last one, so that's easy to... Welcome, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Committee members, State Senator Lauren Nelson, District 18. I'd like to move an amendment, Amendment 229A.
I guess motion by Senator to move the amendment. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Senator Voigt. Comments on the motion?
Just has it in the form that I am happier with at this point.
All right. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senate Bill 229 is amended.
There we go. That's better. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Committee members, again, Lauren Nelson, State Senator, District 18. This morning, I bring to your viewing pleasure SB 229, an act to require an election to approve the issuance of certain capital outlay certificates, lease purchase contracts, or installment purchase contracts. In South Dakota, capital outlay certificates are debt instruments issued by school districts to finance capital projects such as building construction, renovations, or major equipment purchases, with a maximum maturity of 20 years. They allow districts to borrow against future capital outlay tax levies to fund immediate needs. As the law is written today, these certificates can be issued without a public vote, unless the total outstanding capital outlay principal debt exceeds 1.5% of the taxable valuation. And of course, people have to then petition and bring it to a vote. But for example, the most recent total taxable valuation I could find for the Sioux Falls School District was $16,215,645,836. The Sioux Falls School District could issue 243 approximately million in certificates without a public vote. Another example is Brookings, with a total value of around $2 trillion, which would allow 35 million certificates to be issued without a vote. That's just issuing single certificates. A series of certificates can be used totaling up to 3%, without a single vote of the people. But it's important to remember that these amounts represent only the principal. Any borrowing plan must also cover interest, and districts can only use what their capital outlay levy, largely based on student enrollment, can support. In essence, our school children and their families are at the heart of this financing model, as enrollment determines a district's capacity to invest in the facilities. This bill has two scenarios as is it written or as amended. First, if the repayment plan or maturity date is less than 10 years, the school can proceed. There doesn't need to be a vote, doesn't need to go to a vote. This allows smaller projects such as remodels and emergencies to move quickly. So if a school district has air conditioning goes out, the heating goes out, they need to remodel, something like that, the maturity is less than 10 years, they can proceed as normal. But if the repayment plan or the maturity is more than 10 years, the issue must have a hearing and be put to the vote of the people. I want to thank you for your time, and I look forward to your questions.
All right, thank you, Senator. More proponent testimony on Senate Bill 229.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Steve Simpson. I'm from Mitchell, South Dakota, and I'm representing myself. A little bit about me. In 1983, I received a master's degree in accounting from the University of South Dakota. In 1984, I successfully passed the CPA exam while starting my 37-year career with a couple of manufacturers in my community. I retired January 1st, 2021. At the end of that month, the Mitchell School Board passed a certificate for $22,900,000 to build a new high school. And during that meeting, the business manager informed the school board that the trigger, the 1.5% trigger that's in the statute, was $23 million. So because the certificate was only $22,900, there was no need for a public hearing, and the school board was free to approve the certificates. I took the documentation on the bonds home with me that night, and I realized, wait a second, they're actually borrowing almost $25 million, not $22,900. Therefore, the trigger should go into effect, and they should have a public hearing and open it up to a referendum. I emailed the business manager the next morning, and he replied, copying the superintendent, well, our attorney says the principle in the statute is the par value, $22,900. And so I proceeded to start a referendum anyway. And when I found out that they were not going to act on the petitions that I was putting together, I dropped the issue, and I figured the only way to get those referendums into play would be doing a lawsuit, and I was not willing to do that. The cost of the lawsuit was far more than the benefit, so I let it go. Okay, at the end of a year later, if you remember in 2021, there's a huge increase in building supplies. So when the bids came in for this new high school, it was way above the amount of funding the school had available to them. They went ahead and approved the bids, knowing they're going to have to add a second certificate. And in fact, they did do that at the end of 2022. And that was exactly the reason why some property owners in the Oldham, Ramona, Rutland School District brought a lawsuit, and the judge agreed with the landowners that if there's more than one certificate, you have to combine those for the same project in order to evaluate whether it hit the trigger or not. And the judge agreed, and that's what Mitchell did. And because we did not sue the school district in Mitchell, they went ahead and they finished the project of the new high school. The debt, long-term debt, went from $10 million to over $60 million. And because of that debt, the budget for this school year has over $5 million in debt service in the budget. That's money coming from out of the property owners. Most of it is going out of state to investors who are earning tax-free interest. And so I applaud this sponsor of this bill. We need more clarity in these capital outlay statutes, and I'll stand by for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further proponent testimony in the room? Any more proponent testimony in the room? Okay, seeing none, we will go to Laura Zwart. Hopefully, apologies if I didn't say your name right, but please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Laura Zwart. I represent myself. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. I am from Moody County, District 25. I'm very active in attending my local school board meetings and voicing concerns at public comment. Let me give a brief summary of my local example. In 2023, Coleman-Egan voters approved $6.3 million bond for school expansion, which consisted of 6 classrooms, a weight room, and bathrooms. This was a necessary expansion due to growth, and the voters approved it as such. Recently, our school board voted 3-2 to proceed with an athletic complex using capital outlay certificates. I'm not against sports by any means. Both of my sons are incredibly talented athletes, but we do not need an athletic complex. Coleman-Egan boys won this Class B state track meet last year without a track. Our community then petitioned and got 11% of the registered voters' signatures, only to be denied an election because the project was only for $4.5 million, which is under the 1.5% in the current statute. The school's attorney actually told the district that it was illegal to hold an election. Even in 1.5%, even in a small Class B school like Coleman-Egan, is almost $5.5 million. And I feel like back when this law was written, I bet 1.5% was equivalent to a lot less dollars. Spending up to $5.5 million without voter approval and only 3 board members' approval is not okay. In Coleman-Egan's case, this project has nothing to do with education, and only about 20% of the student base would utilize the complex. In the end, it doesn't matter whether we need it, we want it. What really matters to my community is that we get to vote on it. So please support and do pass Senate Bill 229 so that citizens like myself may have a voice on how our tax dollars are being spent. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. I believe that was the only online testifier on this bill. So seeing no more, was there another? Or is there anyone approving?
Sarah Wilson.
Okay, Sarah Wilson. Sorry, you weren't on the list I had yet, but please, thank you.
Hi, Hi, thank you guys for giving me some time today. My name is Sarah Wilson. I'm a resident of Brookings County. A couple of people have mentioned the ORR school issue, and my husband's a plaintiff on the lawsuit that's still currently ongoing. So I have some really in-depth knowledge and probably too much brain capacity on capital outlay certificates. If you guys have any questions, please, I can help you answer anything you need. The reason I am in support mostly of this bill is because I think something needs to happen with capital outlay certificates. If you look at KELOLAND News, they reported in 2023 that South Dakota had over $800 million issued in capital outlay certificates, and there is definitely a need for them. The problem is they're being used as the wrong vehicle in supporting and helping schools finance projects. So I'm just going to tell you a little story about the ORR school. They wanted to do a project, and so they passed an opt-out, which some people confuse opt-outs with capital outlay certificates. They passed a $700,000 opt-out. That opt-out was the vehicle to $16 million worth of debt, and it didn't have to be disclosed to any of the voters that went in to vote for that opt-out. So a typical voter that thought, hey, I'm just giving my school an extra $700,000 this year to pay for buses, to pay for teachers, to pay for computers, textbooks. They took that $700,000 and used it as their repayment of debt without disclosing that to the voters. They also then tried to get around the 1.5% rule to take out more debt than they were allowed to not have it referable to a voter. And my day job is doing mortgage lending. And I'll tell you that I'm not allowed to give anybody a loan unless I disclose the interest rate, the APR, and if the husband's taking out the loan, the wife has to sign and know exactly what she's signing for. So in this scenario, the school's taking out the loan and the taxpayers are paying it back, but they're not allowed to know any of the loan details, right? They're not allowed to know how it's going to be paid back or what's going to be paid back. And the unfortunate part is that your school board members and your superintendents, they don't know either. We have depositions from all of these school board members that they didn't really understand the payback mechanism. And so if there is going to be debt, that has to be, I support Senator Lauren's 10-year repayment. If it can't be paid back in that time, that it has to go to a public vote. I would say 5 years is more reasonable for myself, but I'll support that threshold for her. But if you're putting debt on the public, you need to disclose the interest rate, the amount, and give them a chance to vote on it. And I'll take any questions you have for me.
All right. Thank you. So is there any more proponent testimony on Senate Bill 229? Okay. Seeing none, we will move into opponent testimony.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Heath Larson, Executive Director at Associated School Boards of South Dakota. We represent about 845 school board members across the state, the schools they govern, and students that they serve. Just real quick, and we appreciate the Senator bringing forth the bill for the discussion. We're always open to that. But I do want to make mention that sometimes we get specific schools or situations that get mentioned. There's 147 school districts in the state of South Dakota, and I think that's important to know that there are that many that are in existence, and it's always a two-way street. School boards are publicly elected officials and take their jobs very seriously and are very, very open and transparent with the business that they operate for their local communities. One thing that capital outlay certificates do is there is no mill levy increase for the local taxpayer. It's all local money. There's no increase in mill levies. There is no dedicated tax increase to the local constituents. It's all local dollars in the capital outlay fund. So these separate capital outlay certificates is a mechanism in which, as was very well described by Senator Nelson, as far as how they can be utilized. What we're talking about here is, should they, with the mechanism already in place, be taken to a vote, a required election vote? And the answer to that is no, it shouldn't be. There are certain processes in place that allow that to happen already. The 1.5% that went back in the amended form was valuable, that Senator Nelson put back in there. But the 10-year scenario, and anything going over 10 years, and the mechanics of this bill, most capital outlay certificates are going to be greater than 10 years based on how they work. So we really want to focus on an election. And it seems like this session, and we worked with it last session as well, everything, we're talking about so many things and need to go to an election and have a required election. Elections cost taxpayers money as well. And you have to remember that. Required elections cost taxpayer dollars. Required elections cost taxpayer money. Yes, capital outlay certificates is a form of debt. There is no property tax increase. I have to make that very clear to all of you. We would urge your no vote on Senate Bill 229. We are very concerned about voter fatigue, and that is a real thing. Voter fatigue is going to become very prevalent with all of the different things that are happening with required elections. So we would urge your no vote on this. The petition process does exist in statute. Let the process work as it does already. Thank you.
Thank you. Further opponent testimony.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Sam Nelson. I'm a registered lobbyist for the Sioux Falls and Rapid City school districts. I want to thank the prime sponsor for her explanation of capital outlay certificates and how they work, and also the amendment that you've seen. While we still oppose the bill, the amendment is a step, I think, in the right direction to where maybe someday we could figure out change in this area if it's needed. I've had an opportunity to hear some of the proponents and then read a little bit about the situation in Oldham, Rutland, Ramona, and I think the best way to say this is that this is a situation where a local problem with bad facts are going to send us to where we make bad law if we're not really careful here. The capital outlay certificates, as was explained, have to be paid for out of the capital outlay fund. They can only be used for certain things, and if you are over the amount of valuation, you have the ability to refer it to an election. You've heard me say this to this committee many times before. At all levels of our government in this state, and in a lot of levels federally, we do things by representation and delegation. And if we're not happy with the results or the decisions of the people that represent us, the way we fix that is we get rid of them at the next election. To Mr. Larson's point, this will cost additional money if we have to send these to elections. And I would just tell you that as a taxpayer in the Canton School District, I actually really like bonds, be they capital outlay certificates, which is essentially what a capital outlay certificate is. It's a bond, but also general obligation bonds. And I like it as a Lincoln County taxpayer as well, because I live in a growth area. And what happens with bonds is, yes, they are debt, but the good thing about the debt is that as more people come to the district, as more people come to the county, more and more people are paying on the obligation. So my share of the obligation probably gets less and less over time. And the other good part about it is the people that are coming in are the ones that are paying for it. When we need a new elementary school, when we need new athletic facilities, when we need new buses, when we need new capital because of new people, those new people in the district help pay that bill. And so I would encourage a no vote on this. I'd echo Mr. Larson's comments. I'm happy to have a discussion about how we potentially tweak this law, but the current bill is not the way. And we'd respectfully ask for a no vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. For opponent testimony.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Mitch Richter. I represent South Dakota United School Association. A review of these types of bills is good every 10 years or so, because the issue we have in South Dakota, of course, is you have, half a dozen fairly large school districts, and then you have 140 that are not that big. And it's tough to shoehorn one law, one set of rules to fit all of those school districts. But I fail to see where the issue is. I haven't heard anything about this. I haven't heard anybody complaining. School districts have elections. They have school boards that deal with this. If you don't like what the school board did, you can elect new members to that school board. It's the same old thing that we hear up here frequently. It's solution looking for a problem, and I just don't think that we're ready to do this at this point. When I talk to members of my group, nobody shows up for a budget hearing in a school district. They advertise. Very, very seldom does anybody show up to talk about these kinds of things. And so that tells me that the local patrons are happy with what's going on, and then they realize that we're piecemealing education funding together, and this is one of the tools that they have to use, and they figured out how to use it. And I think we should leave it just the way it is. I'd urge you to send this to the 41st day.
All right, thank you. Farther opponent testimony.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Senate Education Committee. I'm Diana Miller, registered lobbyist for the large school group. And I appreciate Senator Nelson bringing in some amendments right away this morning, because I think we're trying to make the bill a little more palatable than strictly controlling school boards. And the fact of the matter is, I think you're still trying to bypass the authority of a school board that is elected just like you, represents its constituents, and probably can hold hearings and meetings more often than the South Dakota legislature. And the fact of the matter is, I can't fathom why we want to continue to limit people that are serving in a capacity for our public schools. I don't think we are looking at the bigger picture. I understand you'll bring up one or two schools that may or may not have a problem in your mind, but you're looking at a diverse state. And so the taxable valuation or a taxable assessment is going to be great depending on how much land you have in that particular area. So the 1.5 was settled on because it was about as fair and equal as they could get to at that particular point in time when it was put in statute. And you have all kinds of options to look at. Capital outlay certificates were designed to help schools with repairs and equipment to be done in a fast and quick manner so that the students don't suffer. And now we're saying that because of the large assessment of the valuation of the land, schools can't add an addition to an elementary or a high school or a junior high. That bothers you without going to a bond. Then you need to attend the school board meeting and you need to attend the hearing and make your voice known. And if that doesn't work, then you need to run for the school board and get elected and change the people on that board to better reflect what you may feel is appropriate. Maybe down the road, you ought to look at all of the general obligation bonds, capital outlay certificates, whatever, but not at this particular point in time. And I would encourage you to defeat Senate Bill 229 and send it to the 41st legislative day. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Rob Munson, Executive Director for School Administrators of South Dakota. Our concern is not about the transparency of voter involvement. School administrators deeply value community engagement and certainly public accountability. The issue before you is whether this proposal strikes that appropriate balance between voter oversight and the school board's ability to responsibly manage facilities, safety needs, and long-term capital planning. We believe it does not. It was refreshing to hear the individual from, I believe it was Coleman Egan, speaking about the vote that was held at their school. It was a 3-2 vote. That means the members that were on that school board were engaged with their community, and 3 of them voted in support, 2 voted against it. This will shock you, but I'm sure this bill's coming out here 4-3 today. None of us will jump up and down and pout and say we need to change the rules. That's how democracy works. It will come out of here, and we'll continue the discussion and the dialogue in another venue. So I think the way the law is written right now and the way it is handled at the local school district and with the elected officials is just fine. School administrators are responsible for ensuring safe, functional, and effective learning environments for the South Dakota students. This bill would create unnecessary delays, increase costs, limit flexibility, undermine local governance, and impair districts' ability to respond to urgent facility needs. For those reasons, Mr. Chair, Committee, we encourage you to send this bill to the 41st day. Thank you.
Thank you. Further opponent testimony. Is there any more opponent testimony? Okay, seeing none, we'll offer a rebuttal to the prime sponsor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. State Senator Lauren Nelson, District 18. I don't assume it's a 4-3 vote. I never assume anymore with some of these people on this committee. So I don't assume that. Don't assume that, but I'll do my best here. You heard elections cost money. That's true. They do cost money. But what's thousands of dollars compared to $1 million in interest alone payments in 1 year? That's what some school districts in the state are paying, over $1 million in interest, just in interest alone. $1 million. And that's just not one school. There's multiple that are doing that without a vote of the people. And you talk about 5 people making that decision, 3-2 or whatever we heard about. Again, 3 people making the decision for a whole district to go into millions of dollars of debt. Millions of dollars in debt. I agree with the one testifier who said this is the wrong vehicle. And I think that's my biggest issue with this, is the fact when I have a list of all the capital outlay certificates that school districts are involved with here in South Dakota. And the reason for my amendment is because when I looked at it, I noticed kind of a trend. Those that were less than 10 years or around that 10-year period are for additions. They're for heating systems. They're for air conditioning. Things of that order. What you see with ones that are more than that are whole schools. Brand new whole schools or athletic complexes. And again, I go back to, I don't think the intent of this was to build artificial turf football fields. I think these certificates are a way of getting around elections, because there are multiple instances in the state where the school board has gone to the people and said, hey, we want to take out some money. We want to build a new school. We're going to go to a vote. And it's repeatedly denied 3 or 4 times. So what does the school board do? They take out certificates because it doesn't have to go to the vote. And again, they can take out 1.5, less than 1.5, up to 3% total. And again, like the one testifier said, look at our prices of our land and stuff that has gone up, the value of things lately. Hokey Pete, you look at what they can take out, that's millions of dollars, and it's debt, people. It's debt. It's not. And again, that debt is based on enrollment. Capital outlay, that's based on enrollment. And a perfect example is what we have in what recently happened last week in Huron. Huron lost a lot of federal money because of federal cuts. Then they also have these capital outlay certificates, which are based on enrollment. They lost students. And that's the key. What's going on in South Dakota? Is enrollment going up or is it going down? And again, if these schools are betting on having X amount of kids and all of a sudden something happens, like in the case of Huron or in some of our other communities that have lost a lot of kids, maybe they're homeschooling, they've set up this whole debt plan based upon a certain number of kids. And when you have this mass rush or this, suction of kids away, how do you pay for that? So I'm sure the Huron School District is looking at it going, how are we going to pay our teachers? But plus service this debt and be able to pay everything. And so, things happen. that are beyond their control. And I think we're finding that out when we use capital outlay certificates and are assuming enrollment will stay consistent. Saying that local patrons are happy, I just think local patrons don't know. A lot of this stuff is done. I mean, yeah, they put it in the paper, but a lot of this stuff is done. Who gets the paper? And that's why I applaud Senator Hulse for bringing that bill that says, if you're going to do a capital outlay, you need to mail something. You need to mail. And I just don't think patrons realize what's going on. And again, the reason I brought this amendment has nothing to do to make it more palatable. What I did is because I looked at school districts across the state that are dealing with certificates. And again, there are those that are using them for what they're for additions, things like that. And then you have the other sector some of these, when you look at the amounts, I think I have one school district is $49 million without a single vote of the people. That's crazy. That is absolutely nuts in my opinion, because this is debt. It has to be paid. And again, if they can't pay the debt, whose backs does it go on? The taxpayers, because it's got to get paid. It's got to get serviced. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we will close proponent and opponent testimony, and we will move on to committee questions. Questions from the committee. Senator Sauter.
This is for the sponsor, please. Thank you. So we heard from, regarding this, for the proponents of this, from two schools, from Sioux Falls and Coleman-Egan District, which we've heard from them and on other bills before too. How many other schools did you hear from? What is there? Yeah, just how many other schools are having this problem that you directly heard from? You didn't just look at their bottom line to see how much money. How many contacted you about this?
Okay. Honestly, if contacting schools, probably I've not talked to any schools about this. What I have talked to is the people. And I can't even count how many people I have talked to who have said to me, and especially, in locations where schools they just build the school and the people go, we didn't vote on that. How can they build a school and I didn't even get to vote on it or approve it? That's the key. That's what I've heard across the state. I have heard that in my district. I have heard that Mitchell. I've heard that up there. I have heard that in other areas of the state. And again, can I pinpoint what district that is? No, but people have told me. We have schools. We have these new turf on our football field, and I didn't get to vote on it. That's the concern. That's the concern. And when you have a maturity over 10 years, you go to the people. And if somebody's after going to a vote and somebody says, how do we get this school? Well, there was a vote. At least we're informing the people by a vote if it's more than 10 years. And it's on them if they weren't aware of the fact that there was a vote.
Yeah, this might be for one of the school group representatives. I'm just going to ask, is any idea about roughly how many capital outlay certificates or how many schools are using capital outlay certificates now? I'm not seeing any takers. Yeah, no, just kind of curiosity question. Okay. The prime sponsor, if you, yeah.
State Senator Lorne Nelson, District 18. Thanks to our great little our intern over here. He provided me with the information of the 2025 debt capital outlay certificates. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4 pages. And of course, some schools have more than one line because they have multiple certificates that are out. Yeah, I'm assuming it's out there. It says Department of Education. So I'm assuming that information is out there on their website to get. So I have 4 pages of certificates.
Actually, would you want to send that to the committee members just so we can have that information too?
Yeah.
All right. Well, great work to our intern and to the prime sponsor for getting that information around. Oh, okay. Any further questions from the committee? No. Senator Boyd.
Well, I could. I'd talk to if Mr. Munson be available, SASD.
Mr. Chair?
The number of schools or districts that you're part of representing, how many of those districts are currently involved in a election process regarding capital outlay, building, large investments?
Mr. Chair, Rob Munson, Executive Director, School Administrators of South Dakota. Senator, I do not have that information in front of me. If I could get a copy of that too, I would know who all has capital outlay projects and certificates out there, but I do not know how many are currently in place.
Do you have a sense of what those projects would be for?
Mr. Chair, certainly there are districts that add on instructional space. There are some that put in athletic facilities. They put turf fields in. They add on weight rooms. They add gymnasiums. They purchase boilers. They do anything that is a capital project in their district that that district feels they need to improve on.
Thank you.
Any more questions from the committee? All right, with that we will move into committee discussion and or action.
Mr. Chair,
Senator Peterson.
I move do pass.
Second.
Motion is do pass by Senator Peterson, seconded by Senator Marty. Comments on the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I think the Prime Sponsor's done an excellent job of researching this. This is a little-known topic. I think most people are more familiar with opt-outs, but this is sort of a tool that is it can be used appropriately, and sometimes it needs some guardrails to make sure that it's used appropriately. And I think she's done a good job of striking a good balance. And so I would encourage you to vote yes on this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Further, Senator Sauter.
Well, this probably isn't a news flash, but I'm going to vote against this for a number of reasons. First of all, I'm going to go back to a little personal experience. Back in 2003, the school that I taught at and the one that I graduated from, Hamlin Education Center, had to condemn their high school, and it was immediate. They had to get the kids out. When we went in to move things in, the building was in tough shape. And so we had to move them out to the newly built education center outside of town. And we had to use capital outlay funds to add on for the high school out there. It was just a K-8 at that time. We had a bond that had been passed just a handful of years earlier, so we didn't have that option to have another bond to build. So the capital outlay dollars were used. We lived within our means. They were not additional taxes above and beyond what we had. They were already being collected. The same is true in the 2009 edition, because we had more kids and we were able to build onto our school in the right way. We used the capital outlay certificates. I feel once again that this bill wants to limit local control of school districts and their locally elected school board members. If the patrons of the district, it was said that they don't know, they're not aware. You know what? That's on them. That's on them. Yes, put it in the newspapers. If we have to send it, newsletters out to every family, okay. But you know what? In all honesty, I don't think the majority of the patrons are paying attention, but that's on them. I have almost 10% of the school districts across this country in my district, and not one of them said, you've got to pass this. This is what it is. And if it comes down to 3 people are making the decision for the district, maybe that district needs to increase the number of people on the board. Okay? We do not need another vote of the people. Right now, we're going to give them a booklet when they come to the polls in June and November, and we're going to have a lot of discussion about voter fatigue again. And I would not be surprised if next year somebody brings a bill to eliminate the school boards. I vote no on this, and I hope you do too.
Thank you. Further comments from the committee? I guess I'll just throw in that, I mean, I'm at all levels of government, sometimes it's the county, sometimes it's, oftentimes cities. I mean, there's always projects going on. Cities might, increase their water rates, electrical rates, to upgrade their systems. I mean, that's actually been pretty huge in the last couple of years. And, I'm sure there's mechanisms to maybe refer some of that to a vote, but I'm not aware of any requirements where that all has to go to a vote. And maybe it's just because I'm chairing the education committee here, where we're seeing all these bills that seem to always directly go into schools. But I'm also on the local government committee and haven't seen a lot of similar bills requiring votes all the time, or kind of seeming to go after all the other areas. So I don't want to ruin the suspense of maybe kind of showing everyone what the vote might be, but I'm going to resist the motion. So that the secretary will call the roll.
Senators Marty.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Sauter.
No.
Smith. Voigt.
Aye.
Shane Fish.
No.
Mr. Chair, we have 4 yay, 3 nay.
Motion carries. So for those maybe trying to make predictions, I guess one testifier did get that prediction right. With that, we have reached the end of our calendar, and we have gotten through all the Senate bills before crossover day. So just want to compliment and thank everyone on the committee. Tuesday. And while we're on it, just want to remind everyone to wear the traditional black on that day. Okay. Yep. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Senator Peterson, second by Senator Nelson. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. And we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
SDPB brings South Dakotans together, telling the stories that unite small towns, big ideas, and the people who make our state shine. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB shares the voices and experiences of South Dakotans, preserving our stories, our culture, and our sense of place. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. As South Dakota's public media network, SDPB serves everyone with transparency, integrity, and commitment to open access. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB helps shape South Dakota's future by educating, informing, and inspiring the next generation of thinkers, leaders, and creators. SDPB. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB serves South Dakota through an interconnected communication system that is on 24/7, 365. The first place for Amber Alerts, public safety announcements, and EAS messages. SDPB keeps public servants and citizens informed. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB brings you closer to your government. With gavel-to-gavel coverage of the South Dakota legislature and in-depth reporting from peer. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. From early learners to lifelong students, SDPB inspires curiosity through trusted educational programs and resources for every stage of life. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. When South Dakotans need reliable information, SDPB is there providing updates and coverage that keep our communities safe and connected. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB celebrates South Dakota's student athletes with live coverage of SDHSAA state championships, sharing the excitement of hometown heroes. SDPB. Good, useful, and full of wonder. choir to debate to theater. SDPB shines a spotlight on South Dakota's talented students through SDHSAA All-State Fine Arts Programming. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We're going to call the Senate Ag and Natural Resources Committee to order. Welcome everybody that's here today and everybody listening online. Reminder to everybody in the room to please silence your cell phones or put them on vibrate so we don't have any disruptions. And with that, I will ask the secretary to please call the roll.
Senators Davis, excused. Duhamel.
Here.
Marty.
Here.
Voigt, excused. Whiff.
Here.
Jensen.
Here.
Pischke.
Here.
Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. We do have a quorum. At this time, I would be looking for a motion to approve the minutes of our previous meeting.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion from Senator Duhamel, second by Senator Jensen. Comments on your motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Minutes are so approved. Okay, there's a few housekeeping items before we get going. A reminder to the testifiers, if you plan on testifying on the bills today, to sign in at the podium on the back, or the page will come help you with that if you have any trouble. Otherwise, you can do it on your phone or electronic device at your chair. Lobbyists, if you come forward, please make sure that your badge is properly displayed and introduce yourself when you come testify. And if you have any handouts, please utilize the pages to hand out those handouts through to the committee. At this time, we'll introduce the pages. It's hard to believe, but they are on the last day, or last week here. Their term here up in the Senate is almost over, and we do appreciate them and their service that they provide to us. So the pages come forward, introduce yourselves, tell us where you're from, and then hopefully you have a ag-related joke for the committee this morning. Please tell us that.
Hello, everybody. I am Tommy White. I'm from Oneida, Sully Buttes High School. I'm a junior, and my joke is, what do farmers use to make crop circles?
What is that?
A protractor.
Oh, wow. That's a good one.
Hello, my name is Danny Katalik. I graduated earlier from Bonhomme High School. I'm from Springfield, South Dakota, and my ag-related joke is, how do you count cows? With
How's
a
that?
calculator.
Calculator. Very good. Very good. Well, thank you for the jokes, and thank you for your service here to the Senate. We appreciate you guys being here. Okay. Is there any introduction to personal privileges of the committee? Seeing none. I just want to remind the testifiers that all testimony and questions will be addressed through the chair. And with all that taken care of, we will get busy in our agenda. First up on our agenda is Senate Bill 124, which is a bill titled Temporary Prohibit the Manufacture, Sale, and Distribution of Any Product Containing Cell-Cultured Protein, and to provide a penalty therefor. We will now hear proponent testimony on Senate Bill 124. Senator Voida, welcome to Senate Ag.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Michaela Voida, District 21. Well, Senate Bill 124. There is an amendment out there that I would like to move at this time. That is 124B.
I would ask the
Mr.
motion.
Chair, I'll move that amendment.
We have a motion from Senator Whiff. Do I have a second? Second from Senator Jensen. Comments on your motion?
No, we'll let the prime handle that. Thank you.
Further comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. That motion carries. Senate Bill 124 has been amended with 124B. Senator Voida, go ahead with your proponent testimony on 124B.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, as you will notice, Committee 124B is a hog house amendment. We are kind of reworking the format of this bill. It is accomplishing the same intent as the original bill, but it looks much cleaner and I think easier to read. So what we're doing here, we're going to ask for a 5-year moratorium. And the reason a 5-year moratorium on the manufacture, sale, distribution, and anybody holding for sale any product containing cell-cultured protein. Now you're going to see a little bit longer definition in this, and I think that that really covers all of our bases in capturing what we are not referring to. So, just trying to tighten up any possibilities of the wrong people trying to come against what we're trying to do here. So I had the pages pass out a handout. And this is actually a publicly available report on the FDA's website from their cell culture consultation. Okay, and I'm just going to make the argument that this is page number 4 of the, I think it's Mission Barns. Okay, they are doing cell cultivated pork fat is what their product is. Now, if you'll read this page number 4, you're going to notice a couple things that I highlighted, and then you can read through their other paragraph. But, I mean, honestly, they make their argument about food safety for me, in my opinion. No, we want to make sure that the things that our people in the state of South Dakota are eating or choosing to eat, that, number one, they have the information to make an educated decision on what they are ingesting. When you read through this, you see proprietary in this first paragraph twice. That is not an educated decision. And this is one, I believe it was submitted in 2022, and it is approved, and it's been approved now. So there's no long-term studies on this stuff, and it's way too soon to sit here and say that, in the regular cattle industry, we have withdrawal periods of antibiotics, of any hormones that they're given, all of that stuff. We have withdrawal periods. We have studies to back all of that. Yet when I was reading through this report, I saw terms used like antimicrobial reagents, such as antibiotics and antifungals, that are used to mitigate risk of microbial infection during cell tissue collection. There's no talk about a withdrawal period or any of that. There's hormones and growth factors. The report states, Mission Barns has concluded that the residual levels are not harmful, but there's no other testing on, is their conclusion accurate? We see terms like proprietary fattening reagents, coating reagents, harvesting reagents, and so on and so forth. So all of this is Mission Barns itself evaluating that the manufacturing process has been determined to pose no physical hazards, yet we have no long-term assurance of that. So, this bill is kind of, it's been a joint effort between the governor's office and the wishes of the majority of this legislature, and we're settling on a 5-year moratorium for now. I've learned in my time here that if both sides are a little bit unhappy, you're probably getting something done. And so I just ask you to favorably consider this legislation and make sure that we are allowing the people of the state of South Dakota and those who will be possibly affected and involved in this industry a little bit more time to study what are the long-term effects of this. And I'll stand by for more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Further proponent testimony on Senate Bill 124 as amended. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. John Charter, District 2. Thank you, committee, for letting us talk. I raise hogs and cattle. So a couple years ago, when Florida passed a ban on lab-grown meat, I thought it'd be a good idea to bring to protect our state's biggest industry. I didn't know what lab-grown meat was, so I thought it was something like the Impossible Burger. As I did research for the bill, I realized this stuff was scary. To avoid repetition, I'll let the testifier behind me get into what it is, but I've come to learn that we do not know what lab-grown meat is. We don't know that it's safe for us. We should push the pause button on it until we can find out. Please vote yes on SB 124 to ban lab-grown meat for sale and production in South Dakota for at least 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Further proponent testimony on Senate Bill 124. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Jasper Deagle, and I am a registered lobbyist for the South Dakota Stock Growers Association. I have a statement here on behalf of our association that our executive director has asked me to share. She says, we've come to you yet again on a subject that was already discussed, voted on, and passed. Our concerns still remain the same. Think about the South Dakota livestock producers and how it'll affect their businesses, not that of big foreign-owned packing corporations who have invested in these facilities. We feel anyone in the business of raising cattle will welcome anyone not interfering with our quality product by making, selling, or distributing fake food in our state that has not been time tested and proven safe. We are supporting this bill to temporarily ban the product and safety and security of every one of our South Dakota residents for the next 5 years. Where we do not see this as a compromise to completely banning cell-cultured protein, Senate Bill 124 will provide us with 5 years with the security to explore more with a bigger deep dive of testing and evidence without the fear of this fake product entering our state for sale or distribution in any form or fashion. Your yes vote on this bill stands up for what has already passed both the House and the Senate and now allows and provides a timeline of legislation protecting South Dakota citizens, consumers, and livestock producers. Please stand with us on choosing U.S. beef and protecting our South Dakota producers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Daigle. Further proponent testimony on Senate Bill 124.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, committee members. My name is John Kotelnik with the Governor's Office. I rise today in support of Senate Bill 124. In his veto message on House Bill 1077, the governor recognized two important truths. South Dakota agricultural thrives in competitive marketplace, and government should be careful about permanently banning products that are lawful and federally regulated. While most of us may not personally choose these products, banning them outright raises serious constitutional concerns and creates significant risk of costly interstate commerce litigation. States retain constitutional authority to protect public health and safety. Senate Bill 124 offers a more measured path. A temporary moratorium allows time for additional study, data collection, and coordination within the existing federal regulatory framework. It allows ongoing litigation in other states to unfold before we take action that could expose our state to unnecessary legal challenges. This approach respects constitutional limits, reduces litigation risk, and upholds South Dakota's longstanding commitment to free markets and limited government, all while still taking the concerns surrounding these products seriously. For these reasons, I respectfully ask for your support on Senate Bill 124.
Thank you, sir. Further proponent testimony on Senate Bill 124 in the room. Good morning.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Mitch Richter. I'm the registered lobbyist for South Dakota Farmers Union. South Dakota farmers produce some of the best protein in the whole country. We think that this bill takes a measured approach. Let's let science catch up with what we're trying to do here, make sure that it's safe. We did not testify on the previous bill, but we did talk with the governor's office about this bill, and we support it. We hope you'll move it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Richter. Further proponent testimony in the room on Senate Bill 124 as amended. Further proponent testimony. Seeing nobody move forward, I believe we have one online testifier, Mr. Will Coggin. Would you like to provide some proponent testimony?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Lab-grown meat, as people mentioned, is an experimental food. Just yesterday, there was a study published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry that determined that lab-grown meat causes a different allergic reaction in the human body than natural meat. So one of the authors of this study said, quote, "This study demonstrates that meat grown from cells can change in ways that matter for food allergies. Our results show why food safety assessments for cultivated meat need to look carefully at allergy-related the same as those in conventional meat." Unquote. So this underscores that there is still much we don't know about lab-grown meat and its effects on the human body. Fundamentally, this is not natural meat. How they make this stuff is by taking animal cells, they put them in a bioreactor, which is kind of like a big brewing vat, and then they add a growth serum. So there's two issues here, broadly speaking, that would add additional content to why there's big question marks around food safety. The cells that they use are commonly immortalized cells. So normally cells can replicate and divide a limited number of times. But immortalized cells have been engineered so that they can divide and replicate indefinitely. So essentially, they grow like tumors. And if you're trying to grow a lot of cellular mass in a bioreactor, that's great for you because, again, it's all about production, production, production. But this technology was developed for the medical research industry to provide a constant source of cells on which they could do drug tests and other research. But these cells have never before been part of the human diet, and there's no long-term health studies on people consuming immortalized cells. Secondly, the senator who testified previously mentioned the proprietary nature of some of the lab-grown meat itself, and that's true. If you look at it, each company uses a different growth serum for how they grow this stuff in the bioreactor. And right now, what exact compounds they use in this growth serum differs from one company to the next, and it is considered a trade secret, right? So it's proprietary. The formulations are not public. And there's questions about whether or not these different growth serums will result in different end products that then have effects on human health. So again, this is not natural meat. It's nutritionally different, and there's still a lot of question marks. So, I think a 5-year pause that this bill proposes is entirely justified in the name of protecting consumer health and ensuring food safety. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Coggin. I want to ask one more time, is there any further proponent testimony in the room? Seeing nobody move forward, we'll now move to opponent testimony. Opponent testimony on Senate Bill 124. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Taya Runyon, I'm the registered lobbyist for South Dakota Cattlemen's Association. I first want to say I'm here in very soft opposition. I anticipate that this bill will pass committee. We really do appreciate the amendment and the work that has gone into this with interested parties and the governor's office and the proponents of the bill. It goes a long way to address the free market concerns that we had, and we're much less concerned about the potential litigation under this structure. And we also really understand the proponents' concerns and desires to take a pause, and I think that this is a thoughtful way to move through that. The reason that I'm here in soft opposition is because I do want to make one clarification about the inspection and regulation of these products. I think I've said this a number of times, but I feel like it always bears repeating on the record. I'm not an advocate, a proponent, or a spokesperson for cell-cultured protein products. The people I represent do not eat them, do not want them. They feel that they can compete with them. However, our beef producers are a big proponent of the food safety system. And based on our policy, we worked hard in Washington when these products first sought approval to ensure that they would be regulated in the same manner as real meat and poultry, because that was important for consumers to have adequate safety, food safety, and labeling. And it's an accurate statement to say that FDA approves these protein products based on the company's own research. Those companies did submit their own safety data, but FDA independently evaluates that data, and they only issue those no further question letters after their own scientific review. FDA does not grant approval based solely on company claims. The FDA and USDA jointly regulate these products through a 2019 agreement where the FDA oversees cell collection and growth. The USDA FSIS regulates the harvesting, processing, and labeling to ensure compliance with our food safety laws. Our cattle producers believe that the food safety laws should remain grounded in science and risk, and we just urge caution among our state governing body to pass laws that could potentially call into question the established food safety system and cast any doubt on the abilities of our federal food safety regulators, because this could potentially cause distrust among consumers. And so for that reason only, we just wanted to make sure that perspective was heard as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Runyon. Further opponent testimony on Senate Bill 124 as amended. Further opponent testimony. There's nobody online as an opponent for this, so I would ask if the prime sponsor would like to offer a few words in rebuttal.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Michaela Voida, District 21 again. Just really briefly, the structure of which that these products are regulated under and approved under are much different than regular beef. You can go on FDA's website and look at each process, and I encourage everyone in the public to do so, to educate yourself, especially if we're talking about free market principles and educating the public. And I still stand by that we need to hit the pause button and not allow our citizens to become the testing lab rats of this new technology. So I just urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. That'll close public testimony, and we'll move on to questions of the committee. Is there any questions of the committee for any? Seeing no questions, we will move to discussion and/or action.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Whiff.
Thank you. Well, we are back for another bite of the same apple. It's deja vu, right? But I think I really appreciate the measured testimony that we heard today. Much more pleasant experience on our side of the rotunda, don't you think? So I do want to thank Senator Voida for emerging as a leader in negotiating this out, and I want to thank the governor too for his leadership. I do think he made the right move last week, and in kind of setting this forward, a 5-year pause I can live with. I think it's again a measured approach, and I appreciate that. I'm going to move do pass on this bill.
We have a do pass motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
And second from Senator Marty. Further comments on the motion? Senator Duhamel.
I too compliment the governor and the prime sponsor and all the people who've worked. Love when we get together and figure out something that works. I still believe this is an attack on the USDA and the FDA in our own food safety system. I don't think we need any moratorium to protect our industry that is so strong. So I would still resist. Again, I applaud all the efforts. I just don't think South Dakota should be moving into this protectionist legislation.
Further comments on the do pass motions? Senator Marty.
Yeah, we hear about FDA and their scientists and all approving chemicals here and there. Well, they approved Agent Orange in the Vietnam era. And so we got to be real careful about trusting experts, because the experts got it wrong in Vietnam. So I view this as a safety factor for our people of South Dakota.
Thank you, Senator Marty. Further comments on the do pass motion? Senator Voigt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to thank Senator Voida and the executive branch demonstrating that we can do what needs to be done to take care of the citizens that we represent, and especially the industry that is putting it out there on the shelf. I think it gives them breath. They didn't want to be part of this, and they have been taken care of for 5 years, don't have to worry about it. And at that time, we'll make a judge decision based upon what has been demonstrated.
Thank you, Senator Voigt. Further comments? Senator Jensen, you want to take a bite at this apple? No? Okay. I'll just make a couple comments too. I want to also applaud Senator Voida and for working through this. I think she's made herself a reputation of working through some of these hard bills, just like we saw last year on the campus carry bill. She was very instrumental in getting that legislation passed and coming to compromise with all the parties involved. So she's starting to get a little reputation around here as someone like that. But I think this is good legislation. I think I like the pause idea, and it does save us from the lawsuit, that argument. And so, yeah, I think I'll be supporting the measure. So. With that, Mr. Secretary, I will call the roll on the do pass motion made by Senator Whiff, seconded by Senator Marty, do pass on Senate Bill 124 as amended. Please call the roll.
Senators Davis, excused. Duhamel.
No.
Marty.
Aye.
Voigt.
Aye.
Whiff.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Pischke.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, we have 5 yeas, 1 nay, and 1 excused.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. That motion having received the affirmative vote of the members-elect, will move to the floor with a do pass recommendation. Okay, moving on our agenda, we'll take House Bill 1111 or 1111, which is a bill to modify the requirements for obtaining an agricultural processor's lien. Taking proponent testimony on House Bill 1111. Representative Greenfield, welcome to Senate Ag and Natural Resources Committee.
Well, good morning to you. Good morning to all of you, all you fine senators. And I'm back. As I told you I would be from last year with my processor's lien. Made a couple little tweaks on it. All of you were here and heard it last year except for Senator Whiff. Do you need to be brought up to speed as to why we're doing this?
I think I pretty well understand.
Okay.
Maybe just give a few.
Yeah,
Okay,
if you would give a
sure.
few
Little
comments,
history.
Representative. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm Lana Greenfield, District 22, which would be all of Beetle, all of Spink, and the western part of Clark County. I'm here to bring you House Bill 1111, and first the brief history then for the new senator. Last year, the Ag Processor's Lien was presented in this committee and passed unanimously. It passed actually unanimously through every chamber, and this year it was passed unanimously again in the House Natural Resources and Ag Committee, and then it went on to the floor, was pulled, and then nobody spoke against it, so yeah, there was that. I don't know. Anyway, this is for streamlining of the threshers' liens for the U.S. custom harvesters, potential customers on the Secretary of State website. Why? Because the current process in finding out if there are liens against a potential customer, or if the person is going to go and file a lien, they have to go around to the Register of the Deeds in every county where the person has land. This is a cumbersome process, and it used to work back in the day because there was probably only one county that a farmer farmed in, and now there are several counties, which sends everybody scurrying to several counties. So my suggestion was to put it on the Secretary of State's website in order to make this process a smoother process. And the reason that I have tweaked it, moved it from 2026 to 2027 is the Secretary of State is updating the website. And so if I would have done it last year, it would have been $35,000 extra, and I don't think that we need to put forth that type of an expense. So it'll be just streamlined along with all the updates this year. The Secretary of State's office has been good in affirming this. They are willing to do this, and so no objections there. We also did one other change on this bill, and it was to move the time of filing for a lien from 30 to 60 days. Reason for that being is it takes a long time sometimes to do the custom harvesting for a person, and so what ends up happening is before it was 30 days, well, you might not even be done. You know, you might not even be done with that person. Maybe you moved over into the next county and did some custom harvesting work. So 30 days was more applicable to this situation. I mean, 60 days was more applicable to the situation. And also, it's friendly for the custom harvester and for the person that's getting the harvesting done, because it gives them additional time to make that payment. So basically, then, there's just two changes. 2026 to 2027, and moving it from 30 days to 60 days. And with that, I will close my testimony, stand by for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Greenfield. Further proponent testimony on House Bill 1111. Good morning.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Brett Kennecke. I'm a lawyer from Custer and a registered lobbyist for the South Dakota Bankers Association. I want to commend Representative Greenfield on this bill. She's correct about the changes. that were made. We took her bill last year and changed it, kind of did it on the fly up here during session. Took the off season to run it past the business law section of the state bar. We're trying to make sure that it works for people in the field. We want to answer questions in the law so that people don't have to go to litigation to get things figured out there, to have a court decide, fill in the gaps of what the legislature's decided. This is a really good bill. As she said, the deadlines are lengthened to 60 days. That makes a lot of sense. We also clarified that it's not subject to the ag loan mediation program over at the Department of Agriculture. Because these aren't operating notes, they're not loans for ground. We didn't think it made any sense to put these two parties who are deliberating over just one small slice of their operation. Why would we send them to the Department of Agriculture and have that, go through that process? So that's a clarification that's in there as well. I think this is a really good bill. You should feel good about what you're doing in passing this forward. And if you want to talk more about the policy or anything in there, I'm glad to help out on that. But thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kennecke. Further proponent testimony on House Bill 1111. Further proponent testimony. Seeing nobody move forward, and we have nobody online for this, I'll ask for opponent testimony on House Bill 1111. Opponent testimony. Seeing nobody move forward, we have no opponent testimony. We'll waive rebuttal since there was no opponents, and we'll move to committee questions. Are there any questions of the committee on House Bill 1111? Seeing no questions, we will move to discussion and or action.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Whiff.
First, I want to take back everything I said about the other side of the rotunda. Such lovely people, don't you think? All right.
Is this your district mate?
It is, actually.
Your senator,
the
your
fighting
representative?
22nd.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
so I do appreciate Representative Greenfield for bringing these changes forward. I want to highlight that it now loops in leased equipment, which I appreciate, especially custom harvesters. I think that's typical practice. They may be rolling out of their equipment every year in a lease sort of situation, so that's all good and really good changes. So I'll be moving due pass on 1111.
we have a do pass motion from Senator Whiff. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'm going to give it to Senator Voigt. Further comments on the do pass motion? Senator Voigt?
Just a quick comment.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a cleanup in terms of people that are really working hard and don't need to be harassed and taking care of it.
Further comments on the do pass motion? Seeing no further comments, we will ask I'll ask the secretary to please call the roll on the do pass motion made by Senator Whiff, seconded by Senator Voigt. The secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Davis, excused. Duhamel.
Aye.
Marty.
Aye.
Voigt.
Aye.
Whiff.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Pischke.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, we have 6 yeas and 1 excused.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. That motion, having received the majority vote of the members elect, will move to the floor with the do pass recommendation. And if there's no objection, I'd like to certify that for consent. Is there any objection of the committee? Seeing no objection, Mr. Secretary, please put that on the consent calendar. And that concludes our agenda for today. Just so the committee knows, that was our last Senate bill that we had up here today. So we have successfully completed all Senate bills before crossover. And so that's good. We do have some more House bills that we'll keep rolling with in the next coming weeks, but we're looking real good on the bill loads. So as you've probably noticed, there hasn't been real long committees here, but I do like to just keep us steadily going down the track. So, and with that, unless there's any other announcements, I would be looking for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion from Senator Voigt, second by Senator Whiff. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, we are adjourned.
Every day, SDPB connects South Dakotans with stories that inform, inspire, and bring us together. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB is your home for fact-based journalism, connecting South Dakotans with news they can trust and stories that matter. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. From children's programs to in-depth documentaries, SDPB sparks curiosity and lifelong learning in every South Dakotan. SDPB. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB brings South Dakotans together, telling the stories that unite small towns, big ideas, and the people who make our state shine. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB shares the voices and experiences of South Dakotans, preserving our stories, our culture, and our sense of place. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. As South Dakota's public media network, SDPB serves everyone with transparency, integrity, and commitment to open access. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB helps shape South Dakota's future by educating, informing, and inspiring the next generation of thinkers, leaders, and creators. SDPB. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB serves South Dakota through an interconnected communication system that is on 24/7, 365. The first place for Amber Alerts, public safety announcements, and EAS messages. SDPB keeps public servants and citizens informed. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB brings you closer to your government. With gavel-to-gavel coverage of the South Dakota legislature and in-depth reporting from peer. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. From early learners to lifelong students, SDPB inspires curiosity through trusted educational programs and resources for every stage of life. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. When South Dakotans need reliable information, SDPB is there providing updates and coverage that keep our communities safe and connected. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB celebrates South Dakota's student athletes with live coverage of SDHSAA state championships, sharing the excitement of hometown heroes. SDPB. Good, useful, and full of wonder. From choir to debate to theater, SDPB shines a spotlight on South Dakota's talented students through SDHSAA All-State Fine Arts Programming. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. Every day, SDPB connects South Dakotans with stories that inform, inspire, and bring us together. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB is your home for fact-based journalism, connecting South Dakotans with news they can trust and stories that matter. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. From children's programs to in-depth documentaries, SDPB sparks curiosity and lifelong learning in every South Dakotan. SDPB. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB brings South Dakotans together, telling the stories that unite small towns, big ideas, and the people who make our state shine. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB shares the voices and experiences of South Dakotans, preserving our stories, our culture, and our sense of place. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. As South Dakota's public media network, SDPB serves everyone with transparency, integrity, and commitment to open access. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB helps shape South Dakota's future by educating, informing, and inspiring the next generation of thinkers, leaders, and creators. SDPB. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB serves South Dakota through an interconnected communication system that is on 24/7, 365. The first place for Amber Alerts, public safety announcements, and EAS messages. SDPB keeps public servants and citizens informed. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB brings you closer to your government. With gavel-to-gavel coverage of the South Dakota legislature and in-depth